Then, let's get going with the intermission. After the last and sweatiest of hugs, you watch Darklear walk into the woods in search of the disciple. That man is dead, but you wish him the best. Being dead. It does make you wonder. Was he meant to do that all along? You weren't supposed to change anything, and yet Darklear has gone out of his hive and walked out to meet the disciple. Was that something that happened originally and was never told, or something new that was introduced? You don't think you'll ever know the answer to that. Personally, you don't believe he would have on his own, but even with your well-informed and totally biased friendship opinions, you can't discard that option. Regardless, you might have changed something. Just a little bit. A portal appears above you, a circle the shape of time, and Aradia peeks through it, her usual smile and face all put together. You say hello to Ceiling Aradia.
It's breaking. Oh.
That sends a chill down your duct-taped together spine. Aradia reaches out and holds your hands, pulling you inwards into the now familiar space void. When you enter the portal, you spin completely, reversing on your axis, like the place forgot where you were. Feet landing first. Oops. Shit. The portal behind you closes the way a complicated etched door does. Is that a new thing? You don't remember that happening before. You feel under your feet a slimy, almost sinking surface, just for a second before you transition to floating in the middle of the darkness.
I like that animation.
That was cool.
It was neat. And then, nothing.
So it seems that something's gone awry.
Oh, she knows, doesn't she? It's the Darklear thing. Of course it's the Darklear thing. Why would it not be that? Somehow, you managed to break an unbreakable stream of history. Bravo you.
Darklear? That? No. Your new clothes. They fit with the... time.
It's only the 57th time you've heard that joke, and you laugh regardless of it. Aradia seems pleased.
I enjoy an audience I can relate with.
Aradia pauses like she's waiting for something. Expecting something, not from you. But nothing happens. You rush to ask, what's breaking then?
Nothing, maybe. A little experiment of mine where I rattled the bars of your good old bald friend. Nothing is breaking more than usual, just in different ways. Like an entirely new pattern. Oh.
Right, You haven't heard from the cue ball while story exploring. She is right, but why would he be interested in spying on this? Aradia said so herself, it's just a story.
Story we're muddling with, but yes.
Hold on a second. Aradia said...
It is a story, but you talked to them. Affected them in one way or another. Any other troll you might have seen or killed. You might have not changed anything in the big narrative leagues, but you've changed things in small scale. Like those clothes. Oh.
Okay, that is true. These are the Signless's clothes. You kind of did kill a troll back there.
You sure know how to mount a riot. I enjoyed watching what I could when I was able. Even the doomed splinters you created are refreshing old souls in unexpected ways.
It's kind of nice to hear that from her. You think?
I kind of would have wanted to talk with the man who said the fuck word myself. Too bad, so sad, I got someone else instead.
Someone else?
Say, I hope you're ready for your next trip, because it's a doozy.
Aradia opens a portal. You feel the tingle of wanting to know more, meet more of your friend's ancestors, but now you also look at Aradia suspiciously. You know she plays at Secret Keeper, but this is too obvious.
You are changing a lot.
And for Aradia standards, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I like where you're going. Now, go make some friends.
Aradia pushes you into the portal and you fall as before. Halfway down, you realize something. There were no stars in the darkness back there. Content warning. Discussions of depersonalization, mentions of past violence, and implication of future violence in a malicious setting.
Give me a second swallowing. Sorry. You find yourself, once again, displaced from anywhere you know or have anything like familiarity with. Which is usually your own fault, because you have this tendency to be suddenly and inexplicably stricken by wanderlust, captured by the need to go out and follow wherever your heart takes you in your pursuit of companionship, left over from your lovely time of having your entire persona scrapped and rebuilt by someone with a particular purpose in mind. Which you have accepted as being something you get to live with now. You are totally fine with the whole thing. You are. But this time, it's not because of the troll girl that both at once dead and not something greater than that had dropped you here after some less than completely innocent and totally not suspicious in any way at all catching up on. Well, neither of your ends really, but that was also totally fine. Changes. You don't know if you like the sound of that. You also don't know if you like the sound of that. Wait, is this still the intermission, or is this...
No, this is the summoner's route.
This is the summoner route, okay. It's been a while since I played through it. Changing things around, even if only little bits and pieces that splinter off and fade away to nothingness in the grand scheme of things because somebody with control issues didn't like them. It was new. It was exciting. It was... She said this was a story, and you'd known that, but before it had been the one that was set in bloodstained ideology-spewing stone and nothing you could really touch. Now it's something you have a hand in, even if you don't know what kind or even what you're doing at any given point. You're stumbling through on trial and error and trying your best to be something. You're not really something, you're not really anything, you're just trying. Though you think you should try a little harder at resisting that wanderlust urge, because there isn't a whole lot of safety out here on Alternia. Hadn't been before you'd been taken on a joyride through the timeline, not entirely with your consent, and there certainly wasn't much here in the wilds of Alternia's yesteryear. There are barely even roads around here. Oh, how you long for the familiar comforts of civilization and ecosystems having been destroyed for the sake of ease, and capitalism's decree it was for the betterment of society, when everything wasn't always trying to... Okay, everything might have been trying to kill you anyway, but it just hadn't seemed so apparent because of the whole taming of the wilds thing. So you're still going to count it amongst your numerous points of why the past isn't the most ideal place to be. Or perhaps it's more that you've wandered away from the civilization of distant Alternian past and out into the wilderness without meaning to. You're stupid enough that that's always an option, if you're going to be perfectly honest. Your particular form of wanderlust has never really directed you somewhere you weren't supposed to be, so you've never really had any reason to doubt or worry over simply letting your feet take you wherever it may lead. Except all those times when it led you straight into the attention of a number of terrifying and deadly teenage and now adult trolls that were more than happy to use you and your perfect calves as toothpicks before tossing you to the side of the road like whatever counted as roadkill on this planet. Probably other trolls, if you were going to be honest. Anyways. You hadn't understood a lot of what Aradia said back there, but you understood enough to know to continue on as you have been. There'd been a trend to the trolls you'd met, and you were sure there were plenty more to come. Time to just relax and enjoy the moonlit scenery. Alternia really isn't a pretty planet when it and its inhabitants aren't trying to kill you, and those you know and or care about. Even more so when you get outside the cityscapes and it's just trees and fields and nowhere near any god-awful deserts. Really, if you never see another desert, it will be much too soon. There's far too much sand, and they're far too open and empty, and you're convinced that there are monsters underneath all that. You're not uncultured. You know all about the horror of monsters hiding beneath the shifting earth and the most dangerous game of the floor's lava to have ever existed. You know. While others studied the blade, or the various methods involved in orchestrating a peaceful rebellion of teaching kindness and equality, or even the much more desired law books, because oh boy, those fabled lawyer payouts sound mighty fine when you don't need to take into account the massive amounts of debt needed to get there. You spent your time practicing the much more applicable skill of moving around an area without touching the floor because you knew. You knew your day was approaching. You weren't very good at it, but you were ready. And you knew that. Oh, hey, some tents! That's certainly a change of pace. And thus, you return to the embrace of society, of its many ways of easing existence, shelter and cooked food that probably isn't supposed to be eaten by someone like you, but it's rude to turn it down, so you try it anyway, and more importantly, the next character in the story. Actually, you don't think any potential advance, even if it came in the form of friendship, is worth whatever the hell you just put in your mouth. Oh god, it's awful. It's disgusting. You think I might be trying to wiggle out of your hands. No, thank you. Not trying that again. Nope. You get away from the odd food being offered to you and the well-meaning jeering from the trolls that just witness your attempt to eat something that you definitely shouldn't have. At least you're going to say they're well-meaning, thanks to all of your social understanding you've earned through fumbling your way into numerous friendships. If anyone knew well-meaning jeering, you would like to think it was you. You make your way around, looking for the particular troll that was the focal point of this part of the story. From all the lowbloods around, you safely cross quite a number of potentials from your list, and let the remaining context clues fall into place. Who else would have a large number of lowbloods all united under a common cause, just hanging around and having a good time? That you haven't met yet, that is. An important piece of the criteria to put in there. Otherwise, you'd end up with people you've already met tucked safely away in the parts of your heart labeled doomed friendships in big block letters, and you're pretty sure you haven't reached that part of the story yet. You didn't know a lot about this summoner guy, for apparently being a big part in all this adult trolls being kicked off Alternia into an endless expanse of space, there wasn't a whole lot on him that had survived for the present-day trolls to tell you about. Something about rebelling against his betters, stealing a dragon in a raging inferno of righteous vengeance and death, an army doomed to failure and devastation. You know, normal fairy tale things, but nothing actually on him himself. Most of what you knew about the summoner from the story was the after effects of what he'd accomplished, nothing about the troll himself. He must have been something, though, to gather so many trolls together to fight a losing fight with only the slimmest hope of better days ahead. Well, there's only one way to find out. Time to find the summoner amongst his ragtag collection of trolls. It turns out to be much easier than you originally thought it was going to be. You just have to find the group of trolls gathered around in a crowd-like manner, and there he is.
They think that because they're colder than us, that they're higher than us, that means they can tell us what we can and can't accept in our lives, but they're wrong. The only ones that should get to decide what we can do with our lives, what our own worth is, should be us, no one else.
The summoner in the flesh. Not just the close-up flesh, the flesh at a distance that's making a speech that feels both familiar and not at all at once.
That's why we need to stand together. We can't just step back and allow the High Bloods to continue as they have been. Not anymore. We've let them walk over us long enough.
Looks like you've come at just the right time. Now you get to listen firsthand to something that would make its way into the history books. If history books weren't heavily biased towards one side, that is. Still, something none of your other friends get to experience. Something just for you to keep in your little voyeur-to-life heart.
We need to work together to put a stop to them once and for all. We can't let them force another one of us into a life of servitude and death. Not for their wants. Not while we still have the ability to stand up to them and say otherwise.
Pause in the trolls' momentum, which you're sure is to allow the gathered trolls to murmur agreements among themselves, to digest what they'd already heard and avoid overloading them with information. A good choice, in your most humble of failing at every public speaking event you've ever attended opinions.
I know a lot of you have already lost quad mates and friends due to the High Blood's cruelty, and I know a lot of you are scared to lose more. But that's why we need to strike them whenever we can, when they're least expecting us to. We need to show them that we won't bend, that we're not going to falter or crumble just because they decided they were better than us, that they were worth more than us from the moment we were hatched. We need to show them that we're more than they ever thought we could be. There's a High Blood convoy we've got eyes on. We strike in 2 days' time. They'll have supplies and slaves with them. To any willing to risk everything for the chance to help another one of us, we leave at nightfall tomorrow. It's time to be more than they ever allowed us to be.
You feel that that's the end of his speech. A feeling helped by the fact that trolls are hollering and yelling around you as the summoner drops down to into the crowd to talk to some of those that had gathered to listen to him. Others, meanwhile, start to disperse and go their separate ways, talking amongst themselves in volumes that you know better than to listen in on. Mostly because you don't want to have your face caved in by trolls you don't know, but who would be very justified in doing so because listening in on others' conversations is so rude, and you like to pretend you're better than that. Sometimes. Usually. But now you're left with little more to do than just going up and talking to the summoner himself. The troll of a young, dead, but not actually, it's kind of really weird and confusing girl's storybook, heavily altered history book. The troll you definitely aren't putting off approaching because, oh boy, is he everything the storybook said he was. As little as that meant, and without the grossly exaggerated awful came from him being a rebel and in the end, and the history books being written and or approved by the very high bloods he was standing up against. At least from a distance, he didn't seem any more, well, more than any of the other lowbloods hanging around the camp, if that made sense. Nothing about him was really grand or impressive other than those horns and wings, which were only really impressive due to their respective size, and how did he survive with those factor? Who knew, though? That could change as you got closer. If you got closer. You haven't actually started moving yet. You should probably start doing that right now if you want to get anywhere. And just hear yourself out for a second. You could not. You mean, you do really need to go bother such an important and busy guy right after he just finished trying to unite a bunch of trolls under a common goal? Do you? Do you really? The guy's probably tired. It's not that you're intimidated by the figure, you're still too far away to make out any of the details of, it's just... he's busy talking to the trolls that want his attention. Never mind that the distinctive pair of horns and wings he has since broken away from the crowd of trolls was now on his own is the best approachable position you could have ever imagined him in. It's just that he's a really intimidating figure, and you think you'd be better off just trying to get, again, another day when you don't have to talk to him after that kind of display? Just maybe.
Alright, saving.
Which way are we going?
I'm guessing that the try again a different day is probably the bad ending.
Alright, let's do that one then.
If I want to do that one, yeah.
Usually try to do the bad ending first.
Right.
Okay, let's just try this again on a different day.
That sounds like the best idea you've had in a whole entire week. Time to wash your hands of this whole situation and try again at a different point in the timeline, one that's not as immediately intimidating as if one exists on the timeline, that is. You'll find one, you're sure you will. After all, you have the power of plot conveniences and contrivances on your side. The narrative is sure to lead you to where you need to be in order to properly befriend the summoner with his giant pair of horns and wicked sharp grin. You're not putting it off to never pick up this particular friendship thread again. That's preposterous. You'd never let your own fear get in the way of establishing a new and flourishing friendship. That good old intimidation tactic.
All right.
Okay, so that was the bad ending.
That was one of the bad endings.
That was the sudden death ending.
Yeah.
Pull yourself together and go talk to the winged bug man.
Yeah, you've got this. You're not completely petrified of the idea of approaching this one singular troll. Big wings and horns don't mean anything after all the friends you've already made on your journey through the timeline. The horns do have you a bit wary, though. You can't stop that. They're very intimidating, and you are properly quelled by the sight of them. You would really prefer if they continue to be turned away from your general direction. Actually, that's a little silly now that you think about it. What? You're just gonna throw conversation at this guy without him facing you full on at all? That doesn't make for good communication at all. You should at least be facing the direction of the people you're talking to. You're about 70% sure that's a thing that should happen. 75 even. And you're still putting off going up and talking to him. That certainly is a thing you're going to stop doing right now. Instead, you're going to go up to him and say hello. You are, because you have the power of recent friendship with an intimidating figure that you were totally counting on his friendship no matter what he said, and narrative constructs on your side. The draw to continue your forward momentum through the story is more powerful than the summoner's intimidating presence. Kinda. And you force yourself forward toward the target of your friend-making expertise. You feel your limbs trembling like a newborn lamb, threatening to send you to the ground in an incredibly embarrassing display of nerves, misplaced limbs, and wanting to be friends with the cool guy. Your heart, or whatever similar thing you have, has sunk deep into the hollow of your chest, frozen and stuttering as you draw closer to the summoner, the guy practically radiating from the sheer amount of intimidation he gives off in an amount you could never hope to match or even be anything similar to. You stand before him, the adult troll towering over you, his wings and horns only adding to the size of him in comparison to yourself, and you manage to squeak out a hello.
Oh, Hi! Were you here to ask me about something? Something about the speech? Hopefully everything made sense. I may have spent a bit of time practicing it.
This is neither the response you were expecting, nor the one you're preparing for. You really don't know how to respond to any of this right now. You were building yourself up to deal with a super terrifying cool rebellion leader guy, not some troll with a dorky smile who almost smacked his own horns with his hand trying to reach the back of his own neck. Your expectations were dashed, crushed and shattered in a moment with nothing more than a smile. What a complete heel turn. But let it never be said that you can't adapt to unexpected changes. The key to being able to do anything in life is learning to roll with what comes to you and slot yourself seamlessly into the different scenarios. Case in point, yes, you definitely heard the entirety of the speech and think he did a great job of swaying the crowd to his side, though his wording and allowance for emotional weight to settle. A very good speech, to be sure.
You really think so? Even though I lost my lines a little at the end there?
Oh, no, you just made the smile bigger and far more... Oh no, you just made the smile bigger and far more wicked confident than it had been previously. What have you done? You've played yourself. You nod because of course you think so, and because your words have momentarily abandoned you, but that's fine, they'll be back soon.
I'm glad to hear that. I actually spent a lot of time practicing it last day cycle, just to make sure I didn't mess up on stage. They probably wouldn't have listened to me if I stuttered through the whole thing.
You get the feeling that he's talking from a little bit of experience there, though it would be terribly rude to directly ask him about said experiences, so you won't ask him directly. That's not a good way to start a friendship. Believe you, you've tried it. Besides, you have other ways of learning about others, and there's always time to delve deep into the interpersonal trauma later. So you nod, like you know exactly what he's talking about. It's like the moment you mess up your words even a little bit, everyone's looking down on you and doubting what you're saying no matter how right you were. The summoner seems confused by your attempt at faux camaraderie, so maybe that wasn't the best step forward to take after all. You're about to wave off the statement when the summoner speaks up and stops your attempt at saving this conversation before you can even begin.
I mean, I can't really blame them. Yeah, that makes sense, or he doesn't seem very confident there.
I don't know.
No idea.
What does
It's been
chat
about
think?
6 months since I played this route.
I like when the ancestors have blended traits from both ancestors and beta trolls. Yeah. Alright, let's give chat a bit to catch up, and then we'll see what they think. Because you got 6 people watching. So that means at least 3 people are probably gonna weigh in. Maybe.
We've got one for I don't know.
Let's push it. Let's say he doesn't seem very confident there.
Yeah.
Would you like to hear more about his insecurities? Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. Evans is the second one. Alright, cool.
Alright, so we're going with the second option?
Yeah.
That sounded more like a question than a statement, you would know. You're really good at doing the exact same thing.
Well...
Oh no, he caught you catching him? His words are slower, more thought put behind them, and quite a few more pauses as he seemed to order his thoughts and words in his head so they'd make sense when he told them to you.
If I don't sound like I know what's going on, then why would any of them stay here? They could all just leave and they'd be safer for it. There's no need to stay and risk ending back where they started. Or worse.
You stay quiet because you're still recovering from your little blunder, and the summoner shrugs one of his shoulders before his hand returns to the skin of his neck, a small, self-conscious smile on his face.
But that's just what I think after what I've been through. It's always different for everyone. That's what the practice, what practicing is for, right? Making sure it all comes across how I want it to, instead of not. I'm happy with it, at least.
It's a very understandable viewpoint to have, with the number of trolls in this encampment, all of them with differing opinions and attitudes and thoughts. Of course, trying to appear like a sure and confident leader was something the summoner would strive to achieve. You definitely think it was a good speech at the end of it all, very morale-raising and informative. You're sure that he's going to get a lot of trolls coming to help him, potentially murder a number of high bloods in order to deal them an inconveniencing blow and hopefully rescue some more low bloods from the lives they toiled within. A want that feels familiar to you, if gone about in a completely opposite way.
That's, really relieving to hear. Just between the two of us, I might have gone off script a little just at the end after I lost my place.
Well, whatever he'd done to go off script, it didn't show at all in any kind of negative or stuttering and pausing ways while he'd been up there.
Great!
Well... Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, did I skip
No, I
something
fucked up.
accident? Oh, never mind. Well, now you just feel silly for letting yourself get so worked up and scared to actually approach and talk to the summoner. Where's the terrifying troll that led a whole rebellion to their deaths at the hand of the merciless Highbloods? Where's the troll that stood up against the Grand Highblood and had not walked but flown out with only his life, but with not only his life but a dragon as well? That guy's certainly not the troll you're talking to now, with his bashful smile and tendency to forget just how large and unwieldy his horns actually are. The troll you're talking to now is just a nerd. And a lot easier to make friends with than you were thinking he'd be. You're barely even worried about dying if you make a single ginormous fuck-up with him. You barely know what that feels like, but oh boy, could you get used to it. Such a non-terrifying and generally unthreatening guy must have a whole number of friends to call his own.
Not really.
The summoner's whole face falls, and you feel like the worst individual to ever exist. Look what you did with your callous comment. You hadn't even been aware you were saying good on you. But now that you're here, you might as well dig yourself deeper into this hole and ask him exactly what he means by that.
Well, it's just I think a lot of them just want to say they're friends with the summoner, which isn't awful. It's just I don't think they really like that I'm not the summoner all the time. I sound a bit paranoid, don't I? I don't think they like me as much as they like the idea of me. If that makes sense.
I thought we'd go that. Yeah, it does. That just feels like the right answer.
Yeah.
He's making... Oh, wait, no. Fuck.
He's making so much sense right now. Of course there's a number of trolls trying to get on the summoner's good side in whatever way they could, or just treating him differently in general because he's the summoner. You were doing the exact same thing earlier when you almost let the fear you built up from the reputation of him make you put off talking to him. Which seems really silly now that you've just spoken to him for more than a second and realize how much you'd built up the fearsome facade of the summoner in your head. Really, you'd nearly been scared off by a set of teeth and a well-rehearsed speech. More fool you. At least you know better now.
I'm really glad to hear you agree with me. I can't tell you how many times I've had others tell me I'm being stupid about it. It's nice to not be shrugged off for once.
Why would anyone just dismiss his worries like that? That doesn't sound like something anyone that wanted to value his thoughts, opinions, and well-being would do. Not a very good friendship-maintaining quality right there. Unlike you, has great friendship-maintaining qualities, like listening to your friends' worries and concerns without judging or dismissing them out of hand. Usually. For the most part. You're gonna stop digging your own grave now.
Don't worry. I'm used to it. Though, usually, I'm the one doing the digging.
The mutual feelings of, oh, don't worry, my dear potential friend, I've been in your shoes. Metaphorical shoes, that is, because his foot is probably a lot bigger than yours, and trying to walk in them would more than likely end up with you on the ground. Before I know exactly what you're talking about. They will work great to bring you both closer so you can become great, amazing friends. You're certain of this due to your amazing, astounding, flawless record of friend-making, which has never failed you a single time in your existence. Ever.
Well, at least someone knows what they're doing.
Wait. Someone?
Well, yeah? You know what you're doing, right?
You're gonna go with yes to that. But that doesn't mean he doesn't know what he's doing, that is?
Well, no?
You are floored. Your entire frame of reference has just been stripped away by a bashful expression and embarrassed admission for the second time? You don't know how to react to this. How are you supposed to react to the summoner just admitting he has no idea what he's doing with the whole rebellion thing? That he's just playing things by ear and hoping for the best? How are you ever going to come back from all this?
Well, it's not like I meant to start any of this. It just kind of started and then got ahead of me before I knew what was happening.
How does something like that even happen? How did he manage to trick everyone here into following him at all?
I didn't trick anyone. I never said I knew what was going on or what would happen to any of us. I just...
He goes quiet, outrage dashed as he turned his gaze to the ground, focusing away from everything built around you both to focus on something more firm, more solid and grounded in certainty.
I couldn't just let it happen again.
You decide to gently prod him on it after a few beats of silence. You can just feel the air become heavy with the promise of a truthful, genuine backstory about to be delivered to your ears. Free of outside flanderization and false information, the truth behind the summoner's story, the beginning to the legacy that shaped Alternia society as a whole. You wait, eager to have the knowledge of what actually happened given to you.
I mean, really, I wasn't expecting to make it out of there. Not really. I'm not even really sure what happened, to be honest. It was all really fast, just one thing after another. I wasn't even really expecting to get out alive, if I'm being honest. I never really stood up before. Stood up for anyone else, that is. Or for me either. I thought the clowns were going to call me for speaking out of place, questioning the Grand High asshole like that. I was just angry? That's the best way to say it. I was just a bit more angry than scared for once. I did something really stupid. And then I did a lot more stupid stuff that must have surprised him. Bet he'd never had a mutant tell him he was being a moron for no reason to his face. He really was, though. Can you imagine thinking there's no better option to take even though a frondful were just given to you?
No, you can't. He's right. Forcing yourself to do something one terribly difficult way when there were other less difficult options doesn't sound like something you'd ever want to do.
Especially with it being mine and the other Cavalry Reapers' lives on the line, you know?
Yeah, no, you would really like to avoid choosing a dangerous option over a safer one when you might be sending numerous others to their deaths or maiming. No thank you, that kind of guilt can stay far, far away from you where it deserves to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I couldn't tell him any different because of the whole...
The stuttering and pausing thing?
I was, gonna say the whole him thinking I was that I was worth less than the trash under his feet thing, but that works too. And it all just happened. He said something, there was a lot of yelling. The cons reacted and there was more yelling. Someone must have grabbed me because the next thing I know my wings are out, and then there's more yelling. And apparently I was panicking so much that I just grabbed onto the old neophyte's Lucis. And then everything was on fire. So there was a lot of angry clowns freaking out over that. And the next thing I know I'm being scolded by a giant dragon because I tried to fly too far without really knowing what I was doing.
Oh, wow.
Well, it's not like I ever had the chance to practice flying before. I had to keep them wrapped up so nobody knew about them, or they probably would have torn them out of my back, which isn't something I want to experience.
You can see why he wouldn't. His wings look like they're very attached to him. It's just that you now have to process the idea of the summoner's great first act of rebellion against the Highbloods being nothing more than a series of panic-filled, split-second decisions, ending with him trying to escape like a baby bird attempting to fly out of the nest for the first time, before a dragon took pity on his struggling efforts and plucked him out of the sky. There is literally nothing left of a cool image for this guy in your mind now. It's been shattered beyond repair at this point. There will be no fixing it. The summoner is now officially uncool. Which is great for you, because cool friends are so exhausting. Trying to keep up with all their interesting exploits and thrilling life ventures when you know you could never meet doing something similar, tiring beyond belief. Uncool friends are so much easier to keep up with. You decide to share the likening you've made of the summoner's first attempt of flight to that of a baby bird, just to point out the sheer absurdity of the notion.
You're right. It sounds so stupid when you put it that way.
See, it's not everyone that can laugh at their past actions in such a lighthearted manner. You can almost pretend you two aren't in a camp filled with trolls fighting back against a system that deemed they're inherently lesser just for the colors of their blood. Speaking of which, what does the summoner do in his free time? Now that you know he has an existence outside of being the summoner, you wonder what it is he does outside of pretending he knows what he's doing and trying to help the trolls here.
You don't have to keep calling me that.
Keep calling him what?
You don't have to call me the summoner. It's really silly too, is all.
Oh, are you getting actual name privileges? Is that what's happening right now? Have you advanced far enough in the social escalator that you have actual name behind the rebellion? You are so pumped. You can practically feel yourself trembling where you stand.
No need to get so excited about it. It's just it's just a name.
Perhaps, yes, but it's the principle of the thing and what it represents in the story that you're excited about. Also, the chance to rub it in Aradia's face that you know something else about her favorite story that she probably doesn't, but that's a much smaller side victory. Victory adjacent, if you will. What you're really interested in is that sharing of personal info to better connect with him, break through that final barrier blocking you from truly knowing the troll behind the awful myths and legends. Also, the summoner was getting a bit tiring to continue putting in every other sentence, so another additional bonus there.
Right. Well, it's Rufio Nitram. Nice to officially meet you.
Him as well. You have achieved first name basis. You can practically hear the fanfare in your head. You're sure that you've just secured your friendship with him. You're in the clear and so close to your ultimate goal of obtaining another long-dead friend on your collectathon through time. Now back to your question. What does Rufio do with his spare time when he's not being the summoner?
Well, that's actually a good question. I've got one or two, a lot of things to say that I enjoy doing outside of the whole leading a rebellion thing. I just have to think on where to start.
Just go with whatever makes him happiest to start off with. You want to know what brings him the biggest joy in life so that you can see exactly what he's most likely to spend all of his free time doing. Also because you want to start with the best thing, because when people get to talk about the things they really do love, it's the best time ever. Such passion, such emotion, and pure unfiltered pride in their voice. What could be better? The answer is nothing. Nothing could be better.
Well, in that case...
You wait in eager anticipation, breath caught in your throat as you prepare yourself to hear his answer.
I'll take you there and give you, and show you.
Ooh, a change of scenery. Already you're learning so much more about you mean Rufio, than you thought you would. That he likes to spend his free time away from the trolls at camp. You quickly rush to explain to the puzzled look you'd gotten from the winged troll.
It's not that I don't like hanging out with the guys, it's just not my favorite thing to do. Don't take it out of context.
Right. You're sorry for sounding like you were presuming that. It wasn't your intention at all. You didn't mean to. That ended up being a misstep on your part. You're sure he's really happy to spend time with the trolls. He's somehow managed to gather around himself, even if he feels like he can't wholly be himself around them. You're just all too aware of how much easier it can be to not play into roles and parts for others at times and just take time for yourself, how you want to be. Though not from your own personal experiences, of course. You have never felt the crushing heaviness of needing to play into what others want of you. You're totally always yourself, happy in your own skin and confident in your ability to exist without needing to hide and or change large parts of your persona.
Are you... okay?
Yep, A-okay, that's you!
If you're sure... Did you still want to go see it? Or do you need a minute?
Nope, you're ready and raring to go and see where he likes to spend his time. Please, before you dig yourself in an even greater hole in your efforts to ignore the existential crisis that is your entire consciousness and existence. Thank you.
Let's go then.
And then you're being led away from the camp, past the scattered collections of trolls from so many different origins and experiences with a number of varying blood colors on the lowest end of the heinous spectrum. You hadn't really seen a group of trolls this diverse in one place before, at least not like that. Future Alternia had all the modern comforts of urban living, including widely differing blood castes existing within only a few square feet of each other without much murder and death among the gathered populace. But it was a lot different than the circumstances existing within this rebellion camp. As you watch Rufio greet each call of his title with a grin and individually catered response, you get the feeling that there's a community here, something Future Alternia was missing in its survival of the fittest mindset. You see trolls interacting with trolls that seem so different from each other in their bearings and appearance. Clearer, more formal tones mixing conversation with harsher, quicker vocalizations in a way that doesn't make you worry that fists and claws are about to be thrown as you and Rufio pass them. You find yourself passing trolls showing clear signs of irreparable harm having been done to them, sitting and discussing things with trolls appearing physically unmarred, like they both have every right to be there doing that, and you find yourself a little bit eased by the sight. Though you'd think he'd disagree with the actions the trolls of this rebellion are taking, you feel something in your chest ease a little at the idea that some small piece of the Signless's beliefs got to live past his execution. That not everything he'd struggled to impart to Alternian society had been discarded and torn apart by those who wished to keep the status quo of the cruel, unfair society the Signless's message had threatened to shake up. It's reassuring, however hollow, that small bits of your friends continue past them, beyond the memories you hold of their real selves in your heart. Rufio leads you out of the camp and away from the camp and the trolls within it, past a forest of dense trees that's not even worth looking at all, and definitely not worth the effort to put into visual form, to a wide open piece of land just at the top of a cliff.
Here we go. One of the best place I've found since we set up camp.
Best thing he'd found around the area is a cliff face? Yeah, you think you can see how the wide open expanse of sky and the sheer drop of certain depth that was the cliff itself would be great for someone with wings, not to mention the freedom to finally put them to use and give them the proper exercise and care they deserved. It must have been so nice for Rufio to finally have a place where he could freely frolic amongst the clouds and stars without having to worry about anyone else seeing him and sentencing him to death or worse, just for trying to stretch out his own muscles.
Yeah, that's something else great about it, now that I think about it.
Oh,
I don't really think about anything like that when I'm flying. I'm usually too busy.
too busy trying not to fall out of the sky like a baby bird leaving the nest before it's supposed to?
Yeah, that. There's another reason I like to come out here though. She should be here in another minute or two.
She? You weren't being brought along for a date, were you? Because you're entirely unprepared to make an impression for something like that. Just look at what you're wearing. This is the absolute worst thing to wear when you want someone's quadrant mate not to think you're a low-life individual, and...
Dude, calm down a bit.
You calm down the proverbial bit requested of you.
I didn't bring you here to meet one of my quad mates. You said you wanted to see what I enjoyed, remember?
You do remember that, yes. But now you're more than a little concerned, because does that mean Rufio doesn't like being around his quadrant mates?
Well,
Rufio's saved from having to cobble together an answer by a heavy beating on the air. You feel yourself freeze up as it only seems to draw closer, the ground getting louder and louder in your ears, as something that sounds large and dangerous approaches the cliff you and Rufio were standing on. You look to the winged troll for guidance about what's going on and what you're supposed to do, only to find him looking unconcerned and, dare you say it, even excited about the beating sounds drawing closer, and there's a gust of wind as a stark white form peeks from below your field of vision, rising with a graceful strength into the air above you both. And then, loud pterodactyl roar.
here she is.
That is a dragon, my good sir.
I know. She's the best girl.
We gotta go with hell yeah, she is.
Hell yeah, she is.
You bet she's the absolute best girl. Just look at her.
Exactly. She's great, and she helped me a lot with escaping from the High Bloods after the whole shouting at them thing.
Oh, this is that dragon.
Yeah, did you think I had another dragon just hanging around somewhere?
Well, no, you just weren't really expecting to see the actual dragon. Not the one from the story, myth, and legend. You're just a little caught off guard without any real reason to be. Sometimes it's like that.
If you say so. So, do you want to meet her officially?
Yes, you want that. You want to come and meet this magnificent creature that's at once so tied into and so separated from the story of the summoner, and learn about how she's further shaped his life and experience now that he's free of the control he'd experienced before.
Well, I don't know about all that, but I'm sure Pyrospite will like you. She's a much better judge of character than I am.
Pterodactyl equivalent. You are so ready to be judged by a giant fire-breathing winged reptile.
Dude, come see my dragon.
Oh, that was really cute.
Alright, fuck, what should we load up?
I guess
I don't
we gotta
know.
go to the bad end now?
Where is the bad ending?
We have a couple options here. We have the I don't really understand what you're saying. And then we have yeah, that makes sense, or no, that does no, I don't think you're confident here.
I think maybe it's yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that seems like it's probably.
Because then he'll like think that you're just another one of those people who follows every word kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that would be a good one.
Alright, I want to see what that not really or yeah it does.
You want to do that one first?
Yeah.
Okay.
We said not really, right? Or we said yeah, it does, right?
We said yeah, it does. So now we're saying not
well,
really.
Like not really.
Yeah.
Not really.
You think he's just assuming the worst out of whoever he's been having troubles with. There's no way someone would ever befriend him just because they like the idea of befriending the summoner without much care to the troll beneath the title. That's just silly. Never mind that that's what you're kind of doing right now, just a little bit. Zapping around time to add these historical figures of troll history to your friend card without much reason other than that they're ancestors of trolls you already know, and some you haven't met yet, and a dead but not troll girl thinks it sounded like a fun idea, but now there's something happening in the background and you aren't completely aware of, and... Wait. If this is a pot calling the kettle black kind of situation, if so, which do you count as? I don't know if this matters. Does it matter? Pot or kettle?
Probably not.
I'm gonna say pot.
Yeah,
Pot.
okay.
It's got to be pot. Pots are so superior to kettles in literally every single sense of the word. No matter how you look at it, that round, robust shape, that large girth of interior space. Entire epics and countless books could be written detailing the insurmountable points in pots' favor against the awful things that are kettles. You mean, come on, what more do you need than pots are made for food and kettles are made for the disgusting beverage that is tea? That's all the points you really need at the end of the day, in your humble opinion. The semantics of your wandering thoughts are put on hold as you realize the summoner's face is completely fallen again, losing all emotion and seeming to almost belong to a completely different troll than the one you'd just been talking to, more closed off and distant from you.
Well, did you have any questions about the upcoming assault? That's what you wanted to talk about, right?
Well, what you actually wanted was friendship, but yeah, sure, you definitely have questions about the thing that's going to happen whether you try to put a stop to it or not, because you're currently in a time period that has already come and gone. It's events set in stone and unable to be shifted despite the fact that you really, really want to change them in some way. Also, it's a chance to learn a bit more about the inner workings of the Summoner's Rebellion, and not just what little had passed on to the present time's generations of trolls. Why not take the opportunity while you can? So there's going to be the High Bloods close to camp in 2 days. Does that happen a lot?
Oh, they're not passing anywhere near us. If they were, then we'd be packing up and relocating. Everyone here's been... Not all of them want to fight anymore, and they shouldn't have to. If they were in danger, then we'd be moving.
You weren't really expecting to hear that, though you suppose it makes quite a bit of sense considering what the summoner had said earlier. A lot of the trolls here must have been through a lot in their lives before they came to be here. The summoner himself had outright said so as he closed off his speech to the trolls in the camp. Of course they wouldn't want anything to do with High Bloods anymore. It would have been an awful thing to do to just expect them to deal with when there was the safer option to get them to pick up and move along to a safer and more secure location where the danger the High Bloods presented to them wasn't something they actually needed to worry about quite yet. Looking after the large majority of the trolls here, instead of worrying about whatever damage they might have been able to do to the High Blood. Definitely something of someone you'd already come to know for a brief moment in this walk with ghosts you've gotten yourself on. The fact that you're desperate enough to make friends with long-dead historical figures hits you square in the hollow aching in your chest once again. You linger on it, on what it means to the yearning that usually directs you, what was so gung-ho about the current detour you'd taken. And then you go back to ignoring that little fact of your current state of existence because it's depressing. And who wants to focus on something you've already come to terms with dealing for the rest of however long your existence is, when there's a potential friend you're ruining everything with in front of you?
Yeah, not everyone here knows how to fight either, so it doesn't make sense to try to make them, and that's before those who can't. It's all volunteer-based, that is, who stays and who goes. We've all had everything decided for us for so long that I don't want to do that to anyone. We all deserve to choose what we want to do with ourselves, no matter what. No matter what anyone has ever said. We're all worth more than that. We're worth getting to have a choice.
Solemn declaration, the kind that feels genuine and true in every utterance of each individual syllable, even though it still feels like there's a distance between you and the summoner, making you feel more that he's talking to you like you're someone's best-kept secret from what little counts as his personal life. That isn't what you wanted at all, though, so it's time to get back towards that, being spoken to like a not stranger, maybe friend thing that had been happening earlier. And you know exactly the line of questioning that would get you there. You guess he was one of the ones who knew how to fight then, after the whole enslaved to high blood whims for the vast majority of his life thing.
Yeah.
If anything, he's only looking more and more uncomfortable with subjects you're asking him about. This is some pretty awful progress if you say so yourself. And you do. You say so yourself.
Though it, turns out that fighting high bloods is a lot different than dealing with horn beasts. There's just a bit more thought to them at the start. Though, I guess they're similar towards the end of... Well, we all are if you really think about it.
Summoner stops talking, appearing far more troubled than you've seen him so far, and you don't know what to do with yourself while you watch him. You don't think there's anything you can or should do right now. You don't know what exactly tied up his thoughts or how he's working through them. Of course you don't. You're not a mind reader. Even if you were, you're not sure you would really want to. You don't think he's very used to having his thoughts be entirely his own. He's not used to being free to think and work through things at his own pace without the fear that anyone could just come along and pluck them out of his skull, take them and shape them into something entirely different. You really don't want to take that away from him, even if just in theoreticals in your own head. So you make yourself wait until he finishes whatever train of thought he's currently on. He'll be finished soon enough, and then he'll decide what he wants to tell you. No pushing or hurrying on your part.
Yeah, well, I know a thing or two about dealing with high bloods. More than a lot of the trolls here, at least.
Of course he does. Because of the whole stealing a giant fire-breathing dragon to escape thing.
Huh.
Fuck. That was the wrong thing to say right there. You're really flexing that saying things without really thinking muscle, aren't you? Can you be any more obvious about knowing things you aren't supposed to? Can you? Why not just point out that you know, in an exaggerated biased detail, that everything the summoner is and stands for be reduced to less than nothing after the Highbloods eventually crush him and his rebellion to dust, like ghosts. They're all ghosts. It's a wicked, twisted thing that has you talking to trolls that have already walked the planet, already shaped it into the horror that had Karkat hiding, terror-stricken beneath the floorboards, that had Tavros doomed to an inevitable death after what happened to him, that had Aradia dead at the hands of another troll her age because she'd been trying to avenge a friend. And here you were, trying to talk to them, trying to befriend them, knowing their places in the story and what they would pave the way towards. Back in the future, neither the Summoner nor the Silentless had managed to do anything to help in any of the ways they wanted to. If anything, they'd made things worse for those who'd come after. And here you were, ruthlessly inserting yourself into narratives set in stone, just because you could. Just because you had the ability to do so. Because all that could stop you was temporary at best and not worth mentioning at worst. There was little reason for you to be here other than to look in on what these society-changing but overlooked trolls were like, at one point or another, separated but fully immersed in what had made them remembered to begin with. The summoner's face is blank, and he seems to be looking through you as he starts to speak, words empty, dull, and rehearsed as his speech before had been, but differing in how utterly emotionless the words were.
Yeah, that time I stole Pyrospite from the clutches of the Grand Highblood himself and razed half his congregation's tents to the ground before freeing a number of trolls from certain death and leading them into freedom from the air with the dragon at our backs to stop any Highbloods following us. Who would have guessed that when I stood in front of the Grand Highblood, demanding him not to send my troops to meaningless deaths, that this would be where I ended up? A mutant, living alive and free, without needing to bind and hide my wings from anyone that would pluck them out of my back just to prove how little abominations are tolerated by the Empire. Leading assaults against the Highbloods whenever possible, so that they see that we're not as insignificant as they think we are.
The rehearsed words rung as half-truths, events glossed up to sound good and inspire awe in any that heard them, but without the summoner attempting to play into the part that had obviously been built up for him to play. It was also hollow. Empty. meaningless. Neither of you believe any word of it without making you do so. They're just hollow. You don't think there's a way to get back from this, back from the failed act of who the troll in front of you believes everyone around him wants him to be, more than who he thinks he actually is. A belief you've dismissed and downplayed, realizing too late to backtrack and save yourself from what you've gotten yourself into. You find yourself standing in front of the Summoner. Not a troll given the name for something he'd done, but a glossed-up version of him, worn into being something for other trolls first, whoever he was second. And it's a hollow facsimile of an actual troll.
No.
Ouchies.
That was... No.
Alright, well, let's find out, I guess let's find out what the other one was then, since that definitely was... you lost, thanks.
That was a bad ending.
If the other one is a bad end.
Right, that's true.
Yeah, alright.
Alright.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
You know what? You can definitely see where he's coming from with that. You nod in a very sage-like manner, agreeing with him completely. He is so right. From your expertise, from your experience, it's pretty common for trolls to turn on others the slightest sign of weakness or hesitance. You can only imagine how much worse it could be if it was someone who was supposed to help keep them safe and protect them from the Highbloods it escaped from.
There, exactly. That's just what I mean. Well, it usually sounds better when somebody else says it, though. I'm not really the best at things like that. Though you might have figured that out by now.
No, you get the feeling that he really isn't, but you know what? That's fine. You definitely think it was a good speech, and at the end of it all, very morale-raising and informative. You're sure that he's going to get a lot of trolls coming to help him potentially murder a number of Highbloods in order to help deal them an inconveniencing blow and hopefully rescue some more Lowbloods from the lives they've toiled within. A want that feels familiar to you, if gone about in a completely opposite way. I think this is, now we're back on the good path.
Yeah, it's a branch and return to the same path choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Interesting.
Neato.
Alright, so unless we wanted to see what happens if you... Wait, what was that?
The pot and kettle choice was the only other one, I think.
Yeah,
and
I'll
that's
bet that
gotta
was
be
it.
just a loop around, yeah.
Yeah. Huh, alright then.
Cool.